Hello, everyone. It's Jennifer Shahadi, and today I'm going to be doing something a little different. I'm going to be going over a couple of my favorite positions from a new research paper by Google's DeepMind, where they attempt to approximate chess beauty. I've always been really interested in chess aesthetics. I've written a couple of puzzle books, and one of the things that actually really got me into chess when I was a youngster was studies in puzzles because my reading was kind of going up slowly, especially compared to my brother, Greg Shahadi. And I have this creative artistic bent. And so it was really the puzzles that made me understand that there are different pathways to, I don't know, falling in love with chess and getting really good. It's all that interest. You really need to be super interested. And some people are interested in crushing their opponents. And some people need like a more roundabout way where they fall in love with puzzles and then they use those puzzles to crush their opponents. It's really interesting because my friend Yosha Iglesias kind of said something similar in an interview, also on Substack, which I'll link to. It's by Summer Dillon, and it was really interesting remarks by her as well. So anyway, let's dig into it. And if you haven't checked out my Substack on this topic, you definitely should, because I don't want to rehash everything I said in it. But one of the main things I focused on in that essay where I wrote about this paper that DeepMind just published was that in early iterations of this attempt to find beautiful chess puzzles or to create them, the AI often converged on similar themes, in particular the smothered mate. Now, by the end of the research, it was able to create more diversity, and there are all sorts of themes, but who doesn't love a smothered mate? And it's just really funny to see the human and AI kind of converge on loving that theme, which honestly isn't that surprising because the AI was trained in human criteria to see what was beautiful, but still quite cool. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the smothered mate theme, well, I'm jealous of you because you get to see it for the first time. But probably if you're watching this video, you do already know it. It goes a little something like this. Suppose we play knight to f7 check here, and our opponent makes the blunder king to g8. Now we can simply play knight h6 check, double check. Beautiful. And after king h8, what can we do here? That's right, queen g8. It never really gets completely old, I have to say. This position always gives me a little shiver of excitement and joy. And honestly, we don't really get to execute these very often in real games for two reasons. One is that players see it coming a mile away. They might even resign or just avoid the variation. And the other reason is that it's actually not that common of a pattern. Like, if you look at something like Puzzle Rush or Puzzle Racer on Lead Chess, you won't see that many smothered mate puzzles. And that's because it's often derived from real games played on the sites. And back rank mates are much, much more common in real games than smothered mates because of just the configuration is more specific and unique in the smothered mate, whereas back rank mates can really come up in any kind of castled position as the majors kind of get into the game. So yeah, it's a gorgeous mate, and I can really not even remember getting to play it in a classical game, although of course I played in a blitz games. So what's the problem with my analysis? Well, one of the big problems with this not working many times is often there's some workaround for black, and there certainly is in this case. Black can simply play rook takes f7 here, and now the party ends as, queen b3 looks fine here, pawn takes b3 also. Anyway, this of course is not what the puzzle solvers had in mind. So let's go to the beginning of the position and see, if you want to pause the video now, what is the solution here? I kind of gave it away when I compared the smother mate with the back rank mate. So one of them is ubiquitous and comes up all the time. If you have a child who's a Scholastic player, you know it. Any new player knows it. And then the other is the smother mate, which is rare but oh so satisfying. So yes, the key here is to play the wonderful move, rook to c8, double exclam. I love this move. Who doesn't love this move? So there's two issues here. If they play rook takes c8, now knight f7 check, rook takes f7 allows queen c8 mating. After rook f8, queen takes f8, so that's no bueno. And if you play this rook takes c8, then we get our classic smothered mates. Let's go. Let's put it on that board one more time, because who doesn't love a smothered mate? All right, I have to admit, like, this one is not the hardest one. In fact, of the positions I saw in the study, it's probably one of the more simple ones. Like rook c8, it's not easy, especially in a real game. You would not necessarily be looking at this move. But once you know it's a puzzle, this does kind of strike you somewhat quickly. You can let me know in the comments if you agree with that statement or not. But it is very aesthetic and super cool. Actually, the analysis is not completely over, because after queen takes b3, knight f7 check, king g8, we still have to find the correct continuation here, because now after knight h6 double check, king h8, queen g8 no longer works, because you've got your queen guarding the money square here on f7. So at some point, we really need to play this move, d5, blocking the control of the queen. And now the threat of knight h6 is reinforced. Rook takes c8. Still we have knight h6 check, followed by queen g8 mating. Same thing with rook takes c8. And so there's just going to be a little spite check action here after queen d1 check, king h2. What can you do? Well, you can play queen h5 to, again, try to guard that money square. And here is where it's important to find one more lovely move. Knight d8 check, blocking the defense of this rook. So pretty cool problem, right? I like it. Well done, deep mind. Now let's look at the next puzzle. Pause. All right, guys, so I gotta be honest with you. When I first saw this puzzle, I had a blind spot, a very, very typical blind spot. I know I'm not the only one, even among title players, to have a blind spot like this. So after queen e6, which started as checkmate in one, fun times, I was like, okay, so bishop takes e7. Why is this position aesthetic? I don't get it. This looks like silly, right? I mean, take a look yourself. What do you think? Doesn't this look like trivially easy and not worthy of being in an aesthetic booklet of puzzles, as endorsed by all of those deep mind geniuses and grandmasters like Matthew Sadler? And come on, what is this? This looks like easy peasy, right? You just make a queen, and then after you make a queen, rook takes d8, rook takes d8, bishop d8, queen e8 is mate, bishop takes d8, queen e8 is mate, right? What is this? This is such a silly puzzle that, I mean, it'd be cool in a game, right? Like, I don't want to poo-poo it too much, but for this to be something that they actually concocted, no, this is not it. Then, of course, I realize that I'm missing something. It's so obvious in retrospect, isn't it? The move bishop f8, double X slam. Okay, so queen doesn't work, right? And I mean, of course, this is a big, big mental block. It comes up all the time. Many of us have this mental block of a piece moving backwards in order to defend. And I think one of the reasons that this mental block is so severe is that the queen is more valuable than the rook. So our brain just kind of automatically says, queen, you make a queen, I must take that queen with my rook. More valuable piece queen, less valuable piece rook, which makes it even harder to see bishop f8, right? So it's like two things kind of going on at once. But bishop f8, and suddenly black is winning despite white having two queens. I also recently wrote a piece on my Substack about multiple chess queens, so you can check that out too. I mean, why is black winning? Because what am I going to do with this queen? Where can it go? It's literally trapped. I mean, I don't know where to put it. D7 is take, D6 take, D5, D4, D3, D2. Look at this. Very unfortunate news for the queen. So I guess we would have to play like queen A8, but now you've got three pieces for the queen, and That's not a very common material imbalance, but it's also not a very coveted one. As well, we're just dead in the water here as white. So, okay, that is not working. And it's funny from like a human point of view. I wonder if I made a rook instead, if it would be easier to find bishop f8. I think so. I think it's way easier to see bishop f8 here. So there's those two human follies that are kind of working together here to trick us from seeing the correct move. Because otherwise, making a rook is exactly the same lines, right? Bishop takes queen e8 mate, rook takes d8, rook takes d8, bishop d8, queen e8 mate. It's just that bishop f8 is a pesky brilliant move. Imagine you do see that in a real game and you're in this position. Well, of course, the next thing you're going to look at is queen takes e7, is you're threatening queen e8 checkmating, and even more directly, you're threatening d8 equals queen equals rook checkmating. So how to stop it? Well, black must sacrifice the knight for the pawn. Pretty understandable. I mean, that pawn is worth a queen, so taking it for a knight seems like a fair deal. And now after rook takes knight, there's an attack on the queen and there's a checkmate threat. So black really has no choice here except to consider maybe sacking the queen for the rook. And, you know, if you can avoid losing the rook and the knight, I mean, black has two pawns and a rook and a knight for a queen, which should be okay, right? And some action going on over here. So this is far from clear. Or we could play queen h1 check. You can't play king c2 because then knight b4 check, king takes c3, queen c1 is actually mate. Ooh, that's not good, right? I don't want to see that happen. That's a very unusual mate, isn't it? So that doesn't work. So you'd have to play rook d1. And now here it gets a bit interesting because I think now we have to sack the queen. Unfortunately, to try to keep the queen for black would lead to disaster because now you just have not queen d8 check, because I don't have to play rook takes d8, rook takes d8, queen e8, rook e8 mate. I can instead play queen e8 right away, which is actually winning for black. I had to throw that one in for you to get you in the practice of that bishop f8 backwards move. But the thing is, for white, they can also just play rook d8 check instead, and that actually does mate. So in this position, black would actually be compelled now to do the queen sack. But again, I'm feeling like this is going to be okay for black because if queen b7 here, yes, you fork my rook and my knight, but I can get out of danger with a check here and then play knight b4. And I mean, now you might be losing. So none of these turn out to be as delightful for white as intended, but there is a delightful move. Why is this winning for white? You might want to pause the video. Okay, you ready to go? Yes, there it is. Good job to you if you found it. d8 equals knight. What a glorious under promotion. Glorious under promotion. So the same lines exist if you play rook d8 and bishop d8. We just mate, right? But, well, there's no longer any bishop f8 business because we just take your queen. Okay, that's easy. Now we're up. You've got two pieces for the queen, but no way to coordinate them. There's no kind of exciting continuations here with the pawns. I mean, it's worth checking, you know, if like your pieces were more active, maybe there would be something exciting for black here, but it does not exist. And so white is winning here. And what else can you do here? So you can't take the knight. You can't play bishop f8 anymore to try to block the knight f7 and knight h6 business. So what should we try here? Let's try maybe queen g2, threatening mate in one. Okay, so threatening mate in one, nice. But now we have our lovely little checkmate again, don't we? This is where it comes into play. Knight f7 mate. I'll do it every time, guys. What else? Could we try queen f3 here? Because now if knight f7 check, yeah, I mean, they just have to sacrifice the queen. And again, there's not nearly enough comp here. Well, you do have three pieces in this particular position. So this one maybe is worth looking at. But the problem is you can't play bishop d8 because queen e8 mate. And knight c8, there's also queen e8 mating. So there's actually no way to keep your piece here, except for, I guess, bishop f8. But yeah, these major pieces are causing you a world of agony, right? Yeah, I don't think that these knights are strong enough here to withstand all this pressure. I mean, I can just play pawn takes c4. Yeah, and I'm coming in with some ugly ideas here. Okay, so this one also completely winning for white after those nice little themes. And what I really wanted to point out here is that this move queen e6 followed by the key of making a knight here involves so many cool themes and so many themes that I think us humans really love. And I pointed this out in my Substack too. So it's actually a triple theme. We've got the smothered mate. We've got under promotion. I mean, those are two fantastic ones. Those actually don't happen that often. And when they happen, it's like so exciting. Okay, so we got those two fantastic themes. And we've got the backward move that we can't see because there's a more obvious, seemingly forced move. Yeah, I love it. And it's funny, I wrote the book Thinking Sideways. Here it is, by the way. You can pre-order it right now. And one of my points in that book is that so many of us get tripped up in life visualization and chess visualization because we fall victim to tunnel vision, right? And even after, writing tactics books, playing chess at a high level, and writing the book Thinking Sideways, I still literally was just stuck on this for so long, this bishop e7, like not understanding why they would include such a trivial problem because bishop f8 just escaped my vision. And it just goes to show you that thinking sideways and chess calculation, there's no silver bullet. It's a constant practice. You just have to always practice it. And I think that's hard for some of us because we're always looking for patterns and ways to train before we get to the board, like before we are under pressure so that we will be prepared for everything and we won't have to necessarily think while under pressure. But of course, that's not possible. And, you can't just memorize every pattern. Same thing in poker. So yeah, these types of beautiful chess problems always give me so much to think about. And, the question about whether or not they're less intriguing because they were created by AI as opposed to humans. I don't really think so, partly because we have this wonderful paper which gives us like a blow-by-blow breakdown of how and why and what some of the troubles were. Yes, like long term, of course, I would want to buy a book of puzzles or problems by my human friends, not by AI. So there is kind of a question there that I suppose we're having to answer in all of our fields. And, I talk about it a little bit more in my Substack. So check that out, see what you think. And thanks for watching.